I'm not much of a gardener, but I certainly love being in a beautiful garden. In fact, as I meditate on this story, I'm next to a beautiful river beneath the cool shade of a small little forest. God's story with humankind begins in a garden where he planted the Garden of Eden, and gardens and gardeners play an important role in his story. Jesus would go to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray to his Father before giving his life. He would be buried in a garden. Mary, one of his faithful disciples, would mistake the risen Jesus for a gardener when visiting his tomb before he revealed himself finally to her. And then in the book of Revelation, we are left with a picture of the eternal garden of God with the river and the tree of life. My dad used to love gardens and flowers, and he would always stop and appreciate a beautiful landscape painted by God. Not long before he died, we were blessed to enjoy a holiday together to go and see the beautiful West Coast flowers. He was always in awe, walking, sitting, smelling, breathing in the flowers. His constant remark was, "How amazing is God?" On one occasion, when he was 81, he even clambered over a farm fence so that he could get into the middle of a canola field and the beautiful bright yellow flowers. When he unexpectedly passed away from COVID, we were left devastated. This beautiful, kind and loving man was no longer with us. His life story was a story of love, not the everyday kind of love, but a divine love. In his early years as a child, he'd been adopted, but he'd been badly treated, left behind on family holidays, not given Christmas presents when the rest of the family was, forced to get a job when he was only 15 and give all the money to his stepdad. Yet despite that, he cared selflessly for his family until their dying days. And this he would continue through his life. When my mom passed away, he took all of his energy and all of his time to care for what he called the oldies, despite him being in his late 70s. Took them out on outings and helped them with chores. And not only oldies, anyone, stranger or friend, he constantly and unreservedly gave everything. And his final act of love, giving away his ventilator in the hospital so that someone else might have a chance to live. On the day of my dad's memorial service, one of his dear friends, part of the oldies gang, sent me a beautiful story about the Agapanthus flower, which in late December, when Dad passed away, was blooming all over the country. Now the name Agapanthus comes from two Greek words, agape, which means love, and anthos, which means flower. Literally means love flower. However, there's more to it than this. You see, in Greek, there's actually three words for love. The first is eros, which is our normal sexual love. Then there's phileo, which is a brotherly love. And then there's agape. It's an unnatural love. It's a love that's given from God. And this is a very special love because it's a love that causes people to do things even to those who have harmed them. It's certainly not natural. And it's the ultimate example of love. And here we have a picture in the Bible of Jesus who has been nailed to a cross. People have mocked him, and yet he forgives them. And we read that he gave his life for us even while we were sinners. And just after Jesus' resurrection, there's a strange encounter between him and Peter, one of his disciples. And just before Jesus was arrested, Peter, very brave, declares, "Even if all fall away on your account, I never will." Yet hours later, Peter would deny knowing Jesus 3 times when others questioned him. But when Jesus meets him on the shores of the Sea of Galilee just after his resurrection, there's a strange story that takes place. We read, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He's talking about the fish and the fishing. "Yes, Lord," he said, "you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." Now reading this, we might wonder why Peter got upset on the third time and why Jesus kept asking him the same question. It's only when we look at the Greek, which is the language they were speaking and the language the New Testament is written in, that we understand the real conversation that's taking place here. The first time Jesus asked Peter, "Do you agape love me?" Peter replies, "Yes, Lord, you know I phileo love you." The second time Jesus asked Peter, "Do you agape love me?" Peter replies the second time, "Yes, Lord, you know I phileo love you." And then the third time Jesus asks, "Do you phileo love me?" And Peter is hurt because this time Jesus has changed the love word to the word Peter has been using. And so Peter finally replies, Lord, you know all things. You know that I phileo love you. Peter had confessed his love for Jesus, but when it came to the crunch, he denied Jesus 3 times. And Jesus gives Peter 3 opportunities to redeclare his agape love, but he's still unable, knowing that in his heart that as much as he loves Jesus as a friend, he does not have the agape love that would make him die for Jesus. This type of love is not natural. Even Peter couldn't show it. Yet years later, Peter would die for his Lord. And not only that, he would show the same divine, unnatural love for those who hated him. You've heard that it was said, Jesus said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. That is agape love. Unnatural, incredible divine love. And this love is the mark of a child of God. A new command I give you, Jesus said, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. About 2 weeks after my dad passed away, the gardener who worked for him found out. He then shared a dream he had had just before Dad passed away. In the dream, he had been at my mom's gravesite, a place he sometimes went to with my dad to plant flowers. And in his dream, he saw my mom holding purple and white flowers, and she was pulling the petals off the white flowers. And when he asked her what she was doing, she replied, smiling, Neville is going to join me. When my brother went to buy Agapanthus for Dad's service, the florist said, what colours would you like? My brother was a little surprised. He thought, well, there's only one colour, purple, isn't there? As those are the most common Agapanthus wherever you look. And the florist replied, they come in purple and white. The fact that it was Dad's gardener who shared the story was just one more bloom in the bouquet of love that we held. And as these beautiful flowers paint our land from coast to coast, it seems there could be no better reminder of Dad's life, of his selfless acts of love, than the agape love flower. And so in our life, as we seek to be part of God's family, let's remember that as his children, we are known by love.